For Emirates, the liabilities were 16 billion eventually versus 3. And so we can do that. And this is in the annual report, but I've also put it in the slides here. Okay. So this is taken out of the annual report that I just showed you. So I've done this so we don't, the annual report is, a few hundred pages long. Some are 400 pages long. I mean, it's just makes you not want to be an analyst. Okay. So in terms of our assets, we have cash and cash equivalents. So from 2017 to 2018, we went from 2.462 billion to 8.76 billion. So Starbucks somehow got a lot of cash, roughly $6 billion or $6.3 billion more cash than they had last year. And so we'll probably want to figure out why that is at some point. Okay, so that's the cash equivalents, and then total assets also increased dramatically from 14 to 24 billion, so a 10 billion increase in assets. And so what does that usually mean when you have a big increase in assets, if you're a company? Yeah, well, it could be taking a loan and just having more cash, possibly. It could also be an acquisition, so it could reflect that you bought something, although it seems like they have quite a lot of cash there anyway, but we're going to talk about later why they have the cash. Okay, and then in terms of liabilities, total liabilities went from a little less than 9 billion all the way up to 23 billion. So big increase in liabilities. So they did a lot of borrowing or something, and we'll talk about that later, but just qualitatively, we have liabilities of about 23 billion, assets about 24 billion. So what does that mean about equity? It's going to be really small, because that's, in our owner's equity, it would be 24, 23, so owner's equity will be about 1 billion, which we see down here in terms of total equity. In 2017 was 5.5 billion, now it's down to 1.17 billion. So their equity is getting a lot smaller. So what could that be from? Not dividends, because dividends is just paying cash to your equity holders. Well, excuse me. Yes, it could be. So it could be because dividends will reduce retained earnings, which is part of equity. Yeah, so it's dividends. And what else? Because that would be a pretty big dividend. We'll look at how Starbucks, like a lot of US companies and also European companies, is buying back their shares. So they're giving cash out to buy shares back. So we'll look at that too. Yeah. Okay. And so anyway, but you have a little bit like Emirates, only 1.1 or 1.2 billion of equity and 24 billion of assets. So this would be considered a firm with a lot of leverage unless there's something else going on. Yeah. But just a lot of leverage. Okay. Questions about this?